The thing is all about people, I guess, and that really showed on this movie. So same thing, Sean Sexton was the head of animation on this movie, and this guy is just amazing. Live action references about people fighting and see how it could be stylized in a way it could translate to the Kung Fu world. Everyone with his own style like brought something, and it was gathered by Sean in a way that it was super collaborative. Like it was every day. He likes to call that a war room. Like we could be together and try to improve something all together at the same time. It's a bit exhausting, but it's super creative in a way and super rewarding at the end.
Hello and welcome to Prolific Perspectives. This is Kamal Hassan, your host and founder of Prolific Animation Studio. We are all about exploring innovation, entrepreneurship, and how to be successful. Today we have an amazing guest with us, Patrick Giusiano. Hey Patrick, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be with you.
All right, Patrick. So Patrick, please give your brief introduction to our audience so they'll know more about you.
Okay, so briefly, I'm a French animator. I'm actually an animation supervisor at DreamWorks. I've been working a little bit in New York too, at Blue Sky, and I've been working also a little while in London. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. So you have worked in animation for over 2 decades, from France to London, New York to and now LA. How has this global experience shaped your approach to animation?
So it's pretty, it was pretty intense. Like in France, when I started, there was almost no school, nothing. So I had to, like, I knew I loved animation, but it was pretty difficult to know how far I could go and the quality I had to reach to go there. And also, when I started, it was the beginning of internet, so there was almost no reference for me to look at and to know where I needed to focus to. So the biggest problem was that, like, finding reels for me to know what was the quality I needed to reach to go to these big studios I wanted to work for, like Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, these kind of studios. And I like slowly I found that it was pretty difficult to do that in France because there was nothing, like, really. Budgets were pretty low. It was TV series and stuff like that.
So was it back in the 90s?
It was in 1999. Yeah.
Oh,
almost.
Okay. Okay.
2000.
Almost. Yeah.
And I was I really was trying to find something and stay in France because the goal was to stay in France with the family. My wife wasn't super enthusiastic to move elsewhere and learn English and all that. So I worked in studios trying to bring more American projects to France. And it worked for a little while, but there's something in France where we excel is doing things with small budgets. And we can do like stuff that are very high quality with almost nothing, but then we are not very good with money and dealing with big, high budgets to do a real movie. So,
and I think you're right, but still in the European countries, the problem is same. They want the high quality because the European people, they have very high standards when it comes to quality and something. But you're right, the budgets are always the problem when it comes to work with a European company or a project. So go on, please.
It's like the production doesn't know how to manage that. It's still difficult. So I guess with Illumination and MacGuff, it's a bit different because it's both working together, which is a happy mix. But before that, there was nothing. So we decided to move to London because it was close to France. The budgets were closer to the American kind of budgets. And the quality was like what you see in movies. And that's there that I really knew what was the quality I needed to show up if I wanted to be hired. And that's where I was like, this is so cool. It's like it's like your passion becoming reality. Like you can work on Harry Potter or any movies you've been dreamt of. It's there and you can work on it. So I felt so small going there because I would
Mm-hmm.
barely speak the language. It was
Uh-huh.
full of people that I admired, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt very impressing to me. But in a matter of a year and a half, I started to blend in, and I like to think that um, I don't have exceptional abilities, but I have this one thing is I can be a sponge,
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
that's what I did. I just
Uh-huh.
sponged everything that came to
Mm-hmm.
me and
Okay.
really learn like deeply the art of animating there. And yeah, from there I got an opportunity to go to Disney or to go to Blue Sky. And so had both interviews, both did well, but the Disney
So
wagon was
how did the interviews go with Disney? Let's
it
talk
was
about
nice.
that.
Like I was
Uh-huh.
I was so excited because at this point it was like
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago, I think. So yeah, I was ecstatic. It was a dream come true. And so just knowing that they would talk to me was so exciting. And I go to the meeting. It was perfect. I showed my reel, and at this point, I had a much stronger reel than what I had in France. So I
Uh-huh.
wasn't too stressed about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the meeting went well. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we're going to Disney. And
Uh-huh.
but in the meantime, I had this Blue Sky meeting too, and the meeting was amazing, like in a way that surpassed Disney. Like they were, we want you, that's you, and all that. So I was like, oh, that's gonna be a tough choice. And I don't know, a week later, I think Disney replied to me and they told me, okay, so there's gonna be a first wagon now,
Uh-huh.
and you're not part of this one, but you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be certainly part of the second wagon. And I was like, okay, well, that's a bit disappointing. And
Mm-hmm.
Blue Sky was like, we want you now. Like you have your spot at work. Even if you don't have your visa, we're gonna wait. If we need to wait a year, it's you anyway. So, and I have a family, so I was like, oh, that's really reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
In the meanwhile, I had a friend who was like had difficulties with his visa, and Disney was, if you're not here in 2 months, we're gonna have to pass on you. And I was like, oh, that's a big nightmare. So at this point, I was like, okay, the choice is clear. So I went for Blue Sky, and yeah, I spent
So
almost eight
so
years
so
there.
so you choose to work for Blue Sky instead of
Yeah,
Disney.
yeah.
Okay. So what was the
That
first project when you joined Blue Sky? What was the first project you worked on?
first project was Ice Age something, Ice Age 3, I think. Yeah. And I arrived like maybe 3 months before the end of this project.
Uh-huh.
And then it was a lot of Rio, Ferdinand, Epic, um, yeah, all, all
All
a
right.
lot
So
of
with that
movies
being
there.
so with that being said, over the years of animation storytelling has evolved significantly. How do you think the industry has changed in terms of the story being told?
Oh, the story being told, I think I, I'm gonna be bitter. I think it didn't change much, if anything, in not in the right direction. Uh, and now that I see better how things work, it's not as professional as you would think. Like you hit a problem with the story, and everyone gather together and try to find solution. They ask animators if they can add more jokes or things like that, and then you're
Uh-huh.
like, come on, that doesn't like that doesn't feel that Hollywood style.
Yeah.
But in a way, yeah, it's also a good thing that we are involved and we bring up ideas. But it's also sometimes difficult because you're not completely heard. So you're like, okay, if you want me to give you feedback, let me really be part of the process. If it's just to bring a few jokes, it won't work and it won't fix your story. And most of the time, it doesn't fix the story. So you have something that could be shallow and peppered with a lot of jokes and a lot of good animation. and that makes it work. And I have a friend, Sean Sexton, and he
Uh-huh.
always says that animation makes a +2. So, and
Absolutely.
I really agree with that. Like, so if a movie is a 6, it becomes an 8, which is pretty cool. Like
Absolutely, 100%. I would agree with you because if you will add some beauty shots and if you create, if you will create or produce a great acting or facial expressions, even the storytelling, it has not a potential. It gives you a +2, 3 rating. You're 100% right. I would agree with you.
exactly. And when you have a movie that doesn't work, and usually it's a 4 or 5, you get a 6, and you get what usually you get in
Yeah.
cinemas. So, and
Uh
yeah,
huh.
that's what I noticed. So I wish we would have like stronger stories from the get-go. It's not that easy. I don't know what are the tricks to get there. I see a lot of TV series that are very strong with stories. I don't know why we don't get that strong stories in movies. But yeah, when it happens, like for example, the White Robot, I felt
Uh
that
huh.
it just sings to me. It's the
Uh huh.
it didn't need all the jokes and all that. It's
Absolutely.
just following the right amount of everything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like when this happens, and this makes you feel okay. That's where the magic happens. That's where it's more professional. It's not trying to pepper some jokes on those movies. So yeah.
Great. So I have watched the previous 3 parts of Kung Fu Panda, but the animation in this one was amazing. What were some
Okay.
of the key innovations or challenges in animation for Kung Fu Panda 4 that set apart from the previous films? And how did your team approach maintaining the iconic style while pushing the visuals boundaries?
Okay. So the thing is all about people, I guess, and that really showed on this movie. So same thing. Sean Sexton was the head of animation on this movie, and this guy is just amazing. It just embraces all the styles, super collaborative with everyone, and he was able to create these opportunities for everyone to really express themselves. And we have a lot of talented animators in DreamWorks. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
really humbling. So he was able to take and that's what you want when you're on a movie. You just want to
Mm-hmm.
be used 100% to what you can do. So
Mm-hmm.
many times I've been used for a part of what I can do, and I would be like, oh, "Come on, like give me more. I can give you more." And I think that's what he did. So we all were watching all the previous pandas and were like, okay, this is the style. How can we plus it? So his ideas was also to bring some 2D animators. Philippe
Uh-huh.
Lebrun was one of the animators, and
Mm-hmm.
he did like amazing 2D fights, 2D
Mm-hmm.
choreography of fights,
Uh-huh.
and that was really informing layout and animation. What were the
Mm-hmm.
ideas behind it? Then
Mm-hmm.
the layout took this. Then animation supervisors ourselves come back to the layout, change some cameras, change some editing just to make it even punchier and more in style. We would look at like I would stay looking at live action references about people fighting and see how it could be stylized in a way it could translate to the kung fu world. Uh, Ludovic Wancho, he did some amazing storyboard, almost 2D animated things. So everyone with his own style like brought something, and it was gathered by Sean in a way that it was super collaborative. Like it was every day. He likes to call that a war room. Like we could be
Uh-huh.
together and try to
Mm-hmm.
improve something all together at the same time. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit exhausting, but it's super creative in a way and super rewarding at the end. So that's how we pushed as much as possible the quality. Plus, the software we have, I think technically could be improved, but the fact that we have real time on this kind of sequences, like super actiony, is really
Mm-hmm.
nice to have real
So
time on
what
this kind.
softwares were you using while producing Kung Fu Panda?
So it's Primo, it's DreamWorks own in-house softwares. Yeah. So it has his limitations, but the fact that it's real time, you can see
So
fur with it.
is it advanced like Maya and Unreal Engine, or there room to improve that software?
Yeah, it's totally different than Maya. It would be like if you think about motion builder, like you have a rig and a model, and it runs real time in it with its own tool, but just for animation. You wouldn't model in Primo, and same in motion builder. You only have a skeleton, a rig, and a character, and so that's how you work. You wouldn't, yeah, you would model things in Maya, you would have effects in Houdini, but the animation is made in Primo and exported to other softwares.
So basically, the pipeline is same like the standard pipeline. However, you just import the skeleton of the characters into that iDream software. You
Yeah,
animate it and take the export,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay, great.
that's what happens.
So animation is often about collaboration. What is your philosophy on teamwork in an animation studio, especially when working with directors and other animators?
Mhm. So I'd say, and that's something I'd like to share with the youngest animators here. When I was younger, I was like, it was difficult for me to accept the note because you would pour your heart into your animation, and the notes would like break a little bit what you did, and you wouldn't accept it as confidently. And
Mm-hmm.
I think by with all this journey, I'm kind of looking forward for those notes, because you can feel that at the end of the day, your animation is always better with all these notes. And that's what you want at the end, all this collaboration that makes it better. So, and I think by supervising too, you're like, okay, I see now the idea why it makes things better. So even between
Mm-hmm.
supervisors, we try to
Mm-hmm.
get everyone mission to make it better. The director is gonna, bring a direction you didn't think about, so you're like, okay, I'm going to push toward this. It's not what I was expecting, and then that's going to make the shot more unique. And all the supervisors are going to, everyone, it's funny because everyone has something specific. Someone is going to look at the lip sync, some other is going to say, oh, this pose could be better with this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick
Mm-hmm.
from everyone, your
Mm-hmm.
shot gets like 30-40% better, and that's what you want in a movie. So
Great. Uh-huh. So you have worked with many notable projects, Kung Fu Panda, Train Your Dragon. How important is it to maintain character consistency across different films and studios? How do you keep the balance when switching from one project to another?
mhm. I think at the beginning you try to, because you're watching the movie, you're trying to import some of the works, some of the facial animation. It's not always possible with the software, but yeah, so you're trying as much as possible. But then, and you'll be noticing it, then it takes a
Mm-hmm.
life on its own. And
Mm-hmm.
usually the way the character moves, they
Mm-hmm.
are given by the animators who are working
Mm-hmm.
on the show. And
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna take its own life. So every movies, the characters are redesigned a little bit, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not always very noticeable. But on the Croods, for example, on Puss in Boots, it has been changed, and from there, the animator starts to play with it. The rig is going to bring its own limitation and its own style, and then one or two or three very strong animators are going to bring something very different, very distinct, and that
Mm-hmm.
people like, that the directors like, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to the old movies,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to better it in a way, and it's going to be very identifiable as soon as other animators enter the show, and as soon as they see it, it's like what I was saying. It's like a sponge. People start to animate that way, and it takes its own life and create its own style. So it stays in the boundary from the older movies while improving, because
Uh-huh.
each one brings something new. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember on Ice Age, there was a scene on Scrat, and Scrat has been done forever on short movies, on three of those movies before. And I was working on this scene, and I tried a pose really weird on the character, and I thought like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I like this pose. I know because they were very like trying to balance everything to be sure it was exactly like the old Scrat. And I was like, I don't know, it's nothing I've seen before, but I like it. I think it's Scrat like that. And I showed this idea, and they were like, man, that's scary because we've never done this pose, but I think it works. So let's keep it. I like it. And I was like, see, it just brings a new, like a new way of speaking with this character. So
Great.
yeah.
So, with that being said, having worked on How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, how do you feel about the transition to a live action VFX version of a franchise? Do you think the heart of the original animated film can be replicated with live action, or do you see it as a completely different experience for both the audience and the animation team?
That's a tough one. So I watched the movie before. I watched the live action without all the dragons done because it was just the first show, and it felt pretty weird at the beginning. We loved it. Like the story is amazing. So this movie, I don't know. I think it's gonna work really well because the story is interesting, the animated movie, but
Hmm.
then it just brings something else to be live action. It's like a bit more believable in a way,
Huh?
and I don't know. It has its own place. I know that people
Hmm.
didn't like the Lion King maybe because it was too realistic and all that. I think it has its own place. It's different style and way.
But you're 100% right. Both the versions have their places, and we cannot
Yeah,
do the comparison. We cannot have certain things that has done in the live action and take it to animated version of the movie. So I completely understand where you're coming from. So we cannot exactly measure. There is no comparison of both the versions. Is that you're trying to say?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, like any movies. I feel if it's well done, whatever is the medium, and I think this one was
Hmm.
really well done. So yeah, hopefully it's gonna work.
So you have worked on such a wide range of animated projects, from TV shows to feature films. Do you have a preference for one over the other, and why?
From TV show to feature, yeah, the preference, of course, would be to feature because it's yeah, you have bigger budget, so then bigger creativity choices, a lot more range into what you do. So of course, it would be feature. The TV part, I think the only thing that I like is
Hmm.
working at a fast pace
Hmm.
and making choices that work easily and go through on a real feature movie.
Hmm.
Things can be slower, and you make choices that need to be approved, or and you're like, okay, come on, let's move on. So that's the only difference that I would prefer the TV part of it, but the rest for the quality, I would go to the feature side. Yeah.
So Patrick, sometimes when we work on something, we feel so proud. So, with that being said, you have worked on so many iconic characters. Is there a particular character or scene you personally feel the most attached to, or you are proud of?
Sure. I'd say two things. On the Croods, there's this sequence where all the characters are eating together, and it just goes to hell. Like everyone starts to say what they think about each other, and so they were all friends, and then it just breaks. And I worked a lot on this sequence,
Mm-hmm.
loved it, and did
Uh
like
huh.
really like I'm really proud of the work I did on this part.
Uh huh.
Then I'd say, yeah, I really love working on Wolf on Puss in Boots. So that's a character that I don't know. I really resonated with it. I even proposed like pitch for a movie for Wolf. Like it's a really important character for me. So yeah, that's the two things that I really enjoy. Then on Kung Fu Panda, I'd say I
Mm-hmm.
supervised on Jen, the character
Okay.
that was with Poe, and that
Mm-hmm.
was also a really nice experience in a not in different way because I was redeveloping the character, making her what she's on screen now. So yeah.
So the character Jeng, the character Jeng you worked on, like the scenes. Which one you will rate number one, the one you are proud of?
The one I'm really proud of is the one at the end where she's kind of crying. She runs to his arms, and you think she's gonna fight with him because she doesn't want him to get killed by the chameleon. But then she hugs him and tell him not to go.
Hmm.
And it's under the rain on the bridge. It's very
Uh-huh.
intense, and yeah, I loved working on that. Like I supervised the whole sequence and did the most heartfelt shot, not the action one, and that was very interesting to work on this.
Great. So, if you could work on any animated project in the future, what kind of story or genre would you love to explore next?
I'd say a story that is less comedic, like something like The World Robot felt just the right balance that I like. Less jokes, more about the story and the heart. And the style, I would try to go, I don't know, maybe anime style or something that is a bit more stylized than even the Wild Robot, like something that feels different. Like on Puss in Boots, we tried something, especially in the action scenes, and I think there's even on Boss Baby, there's some like more cartoony style. I love to go back to something a little bit more, and on Bad Guys also, there's a really nice style.
A right example, recently Arcane, Fortune's
Yeah,
Studio, they have done something entirely different, right?
yeah.
3D with line art or 2D texture on the characters. So
Mhm.
is that something you are thinking for the next project, or
Yeah, I would love to do that. I don't know if it's line art or because it has been done already. So finding something else, and that's where there's always something. I think Bad Guys, it's different. It's different than the Spider Verse, for example. And Puss in Boots was a bit like Spider Verse, but with a more painterly approach.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Wild Robot is a bit like Puss in Boots, and there might be ways. It's just a matter of
mm-hmm,
investigating, and that's where if you have the budget for a feature movie, that's where you want to
mm-hmm.
find that, and then find the style of animation. So I would love to work on something like that. That's very different. And yeah.
So, what were the most challenging part while producing or working on animation sequences for Kung Fu Panda 4? You just mentioned just then was the character you supervised the entire sequence. So, what were the most challenging parts while animating those scenes?
Um, Most challenging part, I'd say that first she's much smaller than Poe, and they are always together. So there's this different size that makes things like walking, speaking, and the cameras, and even fighting, like this sequence where she was fighting. She's so small, so you need to use that to your advantage. Like she's running around him, she can
Uh huh.
grab him and
Uh
jump
huh.
on top of him. So she's
Mm-hmm.
fast. We use this idea, so she would
Mm-hmm.
cover more ground without
Mm-hmm.
even him noticing it. Sometimes
Uh huh.
you don't even see her move. So that was the idea. The other thing was the tail. Her tail was so huge on a small body, so you need to use that to create nice poses, but it's also a lot in the way. So that was a problem. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the whole design thing also. That's what I learned, and that's what is great when you're supervising on a movie. You have a
Mm-hmm.
say on the design of the character. You can adapt it better to the animation, and it has to be done. So this character, same thing with the tail, with the face. Some of the facial emotion wouldn't go through with the initial design. So I went through. I love modeling, and I went to learn ZBrush on this and
Mm-hmm.
started to propose some ideas so we
Mm-hmm.
could have a better understanding of her facial emotions.
Uh huh.
Same with the way she's built, the way her fingers, like um,
Okay.
Tigress, for example. The idea was to have the same fingers as Tigress, and it looks like peas. It's like small spheres, and you're like, how can I do this, for example? And I want the fox to be able to do this, and with peas you can't do that. So I was able to change the hand to be slightly bigger, a bit more like Poe, and in between Tigress and Poe, and I would
Mm-hmm.
scale them to make sure that I'm really attached to have great hand
Mm-hmm.
poses. I think it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it really translates with the emotions. And yeah, we were able to do that. We were able to add, like, for example, a wrinkle for her neck. So
Okay.
Aquafina, when she speaks, she's very like boyish in a way, and making fun of people. And she's always like, yeah, yeah. And these things happen. So we were using that. So it's also this kind of thing, trying to see the actor and how do you translate that into the character, and how do you change the rig, the model, so you're able to do these things very clearly. You want the audience to see it and not mistake it for a mistake, for something you did wrong, but just the right amount so it translates what the actor goes for.
So in Kung Fu Panda 4, you're saying that you were just telling me the stories and the challenges. So was that done on motion capture or all manual animation?
No, it's all manual
Oh,
motion. There's no
great,
motion capture.
great, great,
Yeah,
great. It's pretty impressive. And
thank you.
when we talk about that and say
Mhm.
that that's manual. So what's the most important lesson you have learned during your career that you do like to share with inspiring animators or those just starting their careers in the industry?
Okay, so I'd say something positive, even if the state of the industry now is not that great. So people have to know it. It's not all pink and nice here. But apart from that, it's an amazing job. So every day you're doing things that you love. It's very rewarding. So I understand if you want to get there, and if you want to get there, if you're really passionate, and I think like everyone in the field like is super passionate. So don't give up. Like you can take years. Like for me, I was in France for 10 years. I thought I would never be able to go work on big movies
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have access to these big budgets, or even the right rig. Now on internet, you can find a rig that is pretty
Yeah.
decent and show that you can animate. Before that, the rigs were like really bad. I would create my own rigs. So anyways, like if you work hard, and working hard makes you special, because I don't think anyone is really special. It's just the way you work and how dedicated you are. If you are like that, you can be sure it will happen. Like there's a lot of walls to break. There's a lot of energy you need to bring to that. But if you bring it, you're gonna break it. Like uh, even people like
Absolutely. It takes time. It's like a slow
yeah,
wine, right? It
exactly.
takes time to get there. So it's a slow process where everyone should trust the process and journey. If you're working hard, trying something to build or create an impact, it's gonna take obviously some time. It's
Yeah,
not gonna
exactly.
happen overnight. So I would
Yeah,
agree with you 100%.
yeah.
So
You
passion.
don't want
Hmm.
you don't want to be disappointed by that and then give up, because and to me, I would refer that almost like going to the gym. If you don't get ripped right away, it's all right. Like you need to work a lot and it takes years, and then you get there. But you're gonna get there. If you do it, there's no chance you won't get there. And it's the same. It's like working, going to the gym all the time, putting the hours, putting the energy to it, and then you get there, because you're gonna be different at some point. It just tips,
Hmm.
and that's it. You're there. And then it's funny, because then you're like, okay, I did it, what's next? Because now you see the other side, and you're like, oh, it's not like what I was saying, the stories,
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
the art, sometimes it's not exactly
Hmm.
what you would have expected. So and you're like, okay, so that's my time to bring feedback and help others getting there too, and make better movies. But again, don't give up, and just take the time to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us today, Patrick. It was a
Thank you.
great conversation with you. I hope you enjoyed the insightful conversation with Patrick. And we would love to, invite you again, Patrick, and we can have another session whenever you work on any other project. And when we'll have room, we'll definitely invite you again. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prolific Perspectives. We hope you enjoyed our insightful conversation with Patrick. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Until next time. Thank you.